by CDO, which is actually the food division of CDO. No? This is actually a red velvet ciabatta sandwich. No? So this is actually our recipe for this quarter. So it's quite unique because usually we're familiar with red velvet as being a cake. So we actually innovated a red velvet sandwich using, of course, our world famous, I would like to think so, fantastic tocino because it's so soft, it's so easy. So the hallmark of a very good product is that the least you do with it, the better. So with this product, I'm just going to add a few ingredients and we're going to come up with a great tasting sandwich. So hindi ko na masyadong relitokihin si fantastic tocino kasi masarap na. But in between, I'll teach you some techniques so that you can learn some things to go along with it. First, we'll start with our Asian dressing. Okay, the nice thing about a dress, when you learn how to make a vinaigrette, a dressing and a dip, it actually acts as the three. Malinaw ba yan? So if you create a marinade, it could actually also be a dressing, it could actually be a dip. Okay, to demonstrate, what I'm starting here with is actually called an Asian vinaigrette. This is going to remind you of your peanut butter based vinaigrettes or marinades. Okay, so I start off with peanut butter. The peanut butter, I'm just going to make a small amount. The peanut butter, along with the mustard, forms the emulsification. So this is where the oil is going to capture to create our vinaigrette. Okay, so I added first in the small bowl a small amount of peanut butter and mustard. Usually, a yellow mustard will go well with this. So yung mga ginagamit natin for hot dogs, it will be perfect. No need to use the expensive Dijon mustards or those grainy mustard. All you have to do is to use that regular yellow mustard. Okay? I think you can buy it here. Okay, so once this is actually mixed a little bit, we add in a little bit more flavor. So to add more flavor, we add hoisin flavored sauce. So the nice thing when you add an hoisin flavored sauce, it actually also adds a different dimension. No? So lalaban siya dun sa sweetness ng ating peanut butter. So I mix a little bit of hoisin sauce. If you don't have hoisin flavored sauce, you can actually also use oyster flavored sauce. But you have to use a little bit of it because oyster sauce is actually a little bit more saltier. No? Hoisin is actually more pungent, but it's less salty. Okay? So basically, this is the base of our vinaigrette. Okay, pag sinabi natin base of the vinaigrette, ito yung actually pagkakapitan ng mga molecules or ikakapture niya yung mga langis. No? So if we were oil and we were actually mixing this, it will actually start capturing and start emulsifying. Pag sinabi natin nag-emulsify, ang ibig sabihin nito, nagiging rich at nagiging malapot yung ating dressing. Ergo, a dressing. Okay? So I'm going to use an oil that doesn't chill in the ref. Ano ibig sabihin natin? Gagamit tayo ng winterized oil. So a good oil to use for dressing will be canola oil or a corn oil or maybe even a soya oil. You might not want to use a vegetable oil for obvious reasons, no? Because once it goes to the ref, it will become as hard as stone. Okay. Now dito, ang maganda sa dressing na to, you don't have to slowly pour the oil in. Since we are using a very strong emulsifier, no, basically, it will just come together. No need to have somebody stand by in order to mix. Okay. Now, sabi ko sa inyo, this will also function as two things. No? Actually, at this point, this is actually already a marinade. So if you have chicken, you can marinate on this. If you have chips later on, they could function as a dip. Okay, if you have coleslaw, like what I have, it could function as a dressing. So malinaw ba yun, guys? I hope you learned something for today that if you make a vinaigrette, which is a dressing, it could also function as a marinade, it could also function as a dip.
Pwede sila na
sorry. Okay. Gusto ko lang i-emphasize na kasi it's a nice thing to know.
Yep.
So it's 3-in-1. So in order to create our sandwich, no, for those who are familiar with our tocino, no, actually it's very nice and tender. Even my sister who doesn't like a lot of processed products says, masarap din pala yung CDO na tocino. Tapat lang ako dun. Okay, so now I'm going to add a few vegetables in order to create a nice tasting coleslaw. So what I have here is green cabbage, red cabbage, and carrots. You can actually also add jicama. Kasi the nice thing about these raw vegetables, they're so rich in antioxidants, no? They make you feel so alive, no? And it's nice because it has fiber, so it'll make for very pleasant bathroom trips later on, no? Totally concerned na yung pag mga kaedad mo patulad nun. Okay, so we'll mix this here. Okay. Can you hold this? Okay. Then create our what's this? Our coleslaw. Okay, so this one we can mix last minute. I will just hold this to the side, then let's continue. Okay, the second part of the dish is actually to pan fry the tocino, which is actually a no-brainer, you know. But then again, to modify it for our recipe, I'm just going to add a few things, no? A little bit of oil. Then I'm going to add a little bit of sesame-flavored oil. Baka naman sabihin niyo, wala na akong ginawa dun sa tocino. Actually, the nice thing when you add these things is that it boosts the flavor of something sweet. Usually, if you have something sweet, if you add a little bit of flavored oil, like sesame flavored oil, the smokiness of the meat comes out. In short, it will taste probably not a whole lot better, but quite different and unique. Okay, so while this is heating up, no, the last few things that I would like to take note is you also add some pepper flakes. Why? Because you want to put a little bit of heat. Pangit naman if the dimension of the dish is all sweet, or it's all a little bit so sour. So a little bit of heat goes a long, long way. Usually Filipinos are not very good with heat. But the recent years, probably because of more of traveling, we love heat. Well, this type of heat, no? Okay, good. So let's pretend the oil is hot. Actually, it is getting hot now. Then we'll add our tocino, which we've already cut. Now, the nice thing about this product is that it's virtually hard to overcook. Meaning, if you're not that technically adept, whether you leave it a few more minutes, it doesn't really matter because it will still be soft. And the nice thing about it is this is the only, well, I'm not so sure about the claim, this is the only tocino in the market that doesn't have saltpeter, which is good. Meaning, wala siyang salitre pero malasa. Kasi there's a lot of tocino products that doesn't have all saltpeter, but it doesn't have that same nice good taste. The nice thing about it, it has that commercial color of what the kids are very familiar with, but it still has that nice flavor profile. Okay, now to add a little bit dimension to this, let's add a few things like pepper flakes. This is what you usually add on seafood pasta at the end, so masarap din siya idagdag. And more or less, you can also add a little bit of the dressing, which is actually now a marinade, which also becomes part of the dish. Okay, so we've used it in two parts of the dish. Now we've used it as part of the coleslaw. Now we use it as part of the meat. And we'll use it as part of the sandwich. So we're done with our coleslaw. We're done with our meat. Now let's add a few dimensional touches to our bread. Bread, in order for it to taste good, especially nowadays, like there's a lot of supermarkets that do the buy one, take one for bread. Now is a good time to take advantage of the breads. All you have to do is to griddle them. By griddling, what I'm talking about is actually browning the bread in a small amount of butter, or maybe a lot of butter, Because if it's a small amount, it doesn't work. Okay, use your favorite brand of butter or compound butter. You might want to use compound butter because compound butter is actually nicely flavored and salted. You will really taste a lot of the flavor from the butter. But then again, if you're using unsalted, that means you can avoid it so much the better. Okay, so now I'm using actually a rustic ciabatta bread, but you can use any nice textured bread, you can actually use also American white bread. They're very good with griddling. For some reason, they turn regular American bread into better bread. Kasi nagkakaroon ng structure, nagkakaroon ng texture, and that is very important. For some reason, structure is very important, especially in our daily lives where it's just raining and raining and raining. Okay, good. So now we're at the tail end of our product, So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to griddle the bread. It might look like a lot of butter. Actually, it is a lot of butter, but then again, it's a nice tasting sandwich. Okay, good. So just to griddle it, just to get it a little bit texturized, okay? Unfortunately, the samples that we have here are not griddled. But the nice thing about it, they'll still taste great. Why? Because we have the sauce as another form of dip. So whether you griddle the sandwich or not, masarap. Which is actually another hallmark of a good product. Just like spaghetti. Whether you eat it cold or hot, if it was good spaghetti to begin with, it's probably it was probably good spaghetti to begin with. Okay, good. Okay, now let's assemble the product, which is always the fun part. Let's get a small amount of our coleslaw. I'm just going to add some cabbage because I think I overdressed it. Okay. Then with our coleslaw, I'm just going to add a few more things, a little bit more pepper flakes, sesame seeds. These are things that, because at my age, I always love to add products that will enhance health. Something that adds antioxidant, blah, 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 or vitamins is actually a good thing for me. Okay, good. But when you're young people, so you don't need it at this point. Okay, so I'm going to add our coleslaw to our griddled bread. Then we're going to add the red velvet part. This actually makes it a red velvet. Actually, we've tried it on to some of our guests who actually haven't tasted or who were not from the Philippines, and they were quite surprised. Wow, this is a red velvet sandwich. And you have red pork. Now, we love our red pork in the Philippines, which is actually tocino. So the next time you want to create a unique sandwich, especially this coming Christmas season, maybe you should give this red velvet sandwich a try. And it goes very well with soda, with beer, with wine. And it's so simple because it's actually basically marinated pork along with slaw. Then of course, we can actually cut it in half to make it look good or to share it with somebody else. Then plop maybe some sticks to add to our buffet of sandwiches. And the nice thing to serve with this will be actually nice crispy chips, which we made from scratch using things that you can buy in the supermarket like sweet potatoes, ube, or what else, like gabi, and they create, can you call this, a nicer presentation, and they create a nice textural contrast. So do not take my word for it. Maybe the best of the pudding is in the eating, no? So, yun. So we will add more chips. Then there's some here for sampling and for dipping, so I hope you enjoy it. It's quite filling, so maybe after those 3 demonstrations, you might want to split a sandwich with a friend. But then again, it's good, so please try it. This recipe was brought to you by CDO. For those people who don't know what CDO means, it doesn't mean Cagayan de Oro, no? It actually means the lady who founded this big company. It's Cora D.O. Tama ba yan?
There you go, finally.
Thank you.
Mystery solved, sir.
So the mystery is solved. It's not Cagayan de Oro, it's Cora D.O.
There.
And I think she has some Chinese blood.
Oh.
So thank you very much for, I hope you learned something. And
Thank you
I hope
very
this
much.
Christmas. Thank you.
On time.